Okay, we are recording. Hello, everybody. This is Sebastian Marquet from Crush to Cellar. I hope everybody's doing good. It was not an easy vintage for sure. 2020 was kind of complicated from South California to Washington. Fires have been, exposing grapes a lot. So I hope you are all doing good. And if you need any help with that, we are putting some trials with Scott Lab and Crush to Cellar. So if you're interested, I can send you some information about enzymes and all different protocol to try to mitigate this issue. So please feel free to reach. Today, we are going to talk about Velcorin. I'm very excited to have Andre with us, Austin, and he is going to introduce himself. So Andre, can you introduce yourself first and also describe your surrounding?
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. Happy to be here and happy to talk about Velcorin and wine with everybody on the call. My name is Andre Austin. As Sebastian mentioned, I work for Scott Laboratories in the Beverage Integrity and Filtration department. So we handle product like Velcorin, stability products, as well as all filtration products for the company. And I personally have been working with Velcorin for, it's been quite a while now, since 1991. So a lot of experience around the country with alcohol and non-alcoholic products in Velcorin. I live in Paso Robles, as you can see in my background. This is not Paso Robles, but a small town of Paso Robles, California. I've been here for about 20 years. The weather is pretty good outside. It's starting to get cold for sure, but in the virtual world these days that we live in, we can look like we're anywhere right now. And I think this background is downtown Chicago from a picture I took last year. So anyway, yeah, that's me. Happy to talk about Velcorin and get the ball rolling. So yeah, Sebastian, if you want to kick us off.
Yes, did you get any rain yet in Paso?
Ooh, something we are always looking forward to. We have not gotten a serious rain yet. We got maybe a fraction of an inch earlier or later in November, but yeah, typically we don't see it until January, February in sizable fashion, but nothing yet.
Okay, so if you have any question, please feel free to send them my way through the Zoom question system, and I will be happy to ask the questions to Andre as we go. So feel free to put the question up there anytime. So the concept is simple. It's 10 questions, 10 answers, straight to the point, practical answers. And so here we are. Question number 1. Velcorin is a microbial control agent. We're working with most microorganisms known in the wine industry, like Acetobacter, Brett, Botrytis cinerea, Lactobacillus, Saccharomyces, so we can name them. Can you tell us what it is exactly, Velcorin, and how does it work?
Yeah, great question. So Velcorin is a microbial control agent, been approved by the TTB and the FDA in the US since 1988, I believe. Dimethyl dicarbonate is the chemical name. And basically what Velcorin does is its raw material is a liquid form. When introduced to a wine or a beverage, it enters the cell wall of a spoilage micro that we're trying to control. And it eliminates an activity of the cell, an enzymatic activity that allows the cell to feed itself, right? So when Velcorin enters the cell, it deactivates this enzymatic process. The cell can no longer feed itself, can no longer bring in nutrients from outside the cell wall into the cell. And essentially it goes into stasis and it dies. So that's the mode of action on a cellular level, simply. The cell is deactivated. It still stays intact, but it's no longer viable. It's dead.
Okay. So what is the action? We are always, as winemaker, afraid to add anything in the wine that we don't know. Velcorin, I know it exists for a long time, but a lot of winemakers don't really know always the utilization. How does that work? How does that decompose in the beverage?
Yeah, very good. So Velcorin is applied typically in production facilities at the very final stage during production. So at bottling or packaging process, it's the last thing you do. And it's dosed into the beverage stream on the way to the package. Once it hits the product, the beverage, dimethyl dicarbonate will break down into primarily two other components, right? Which is very low levels of carbon dioxide and methanol, both of which, and part of the beauty of Velcorin is both of which are naturally occurring in wines to an extent. And the levels of introduction of CO2 and methanol by the dosage of Velcorin are very minimal, not enough to affect any sensory impact, and well under any limit for regulatory effect either. So,
So it hydrolyze, decompose, and disappear and become part of a product, base product.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, Velcorin, once introduced into the package and broken down, typically depending on temperature at wine filling temperatures, takes about 3 to 4 hours to completely break down and be gone. But after that, really has very low, if any, effect on sensory, color. I mean, it's undetectable. So one of the nice things about Velcorin is it does its job against the microactivity. You introduce it, and has really no impact on a sensory level.
Okay. Does dimethyl dicarbonate can replace potassium metabisulfite and potassium sorbate in sweet wine? Does that replace both of what we use usually, or?
Yeah, great question. You know, so SO2, sulfur dioxide, or those components, you know, we've used in wine for a long time, and it's a standard, right? But primarily for two reasons. One is microbial control. The other is an antioxidant property, right? So Velcorin can certainly take up the effect and the load of that antimicrobial purpose, but it does not have any antioxidant properties. So, you know, sulfur dioxide might still be needed or necessary to take care of that part of the job that sulfur dioxide does. But certainly by introducing Velcorin, the potential to lower the sulfur dioxide in the final package and the products is there. Since it's not being primarily relied upon for antimicrobial, Velcorin can take that over.
So purely antiseptic, no antioxidant.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. We've also seen, you know, I'm not sure if you see that here in Oregon, but, you know, with the, I would say, proliferation of various beverages in cans, and that type of a package, even wine in cans, we know that the sulfur dioxide levels can really have an effect in that kind of a package, whether they're interacting with a liner or just being in that type of an environment, has been necessary sometimes to drastically reduce sulfur dioxide levels. And by using Velcorin, that can really help by using it for antimicrobial and minimize sulfur dioxide in cans.
Oh, so that's interesting. So you can, that help you, or what? By knowing that it's antiseptic as well, you can reduce the amount of SO2 that you are going to use in your wine.
Yeah.
Big advantage in the canning industry, that for sure. So before any addition, do we need to do laboratory scale application, or it's like always the same dosage, or you have to scale the dosage depending, you know, some test before?
Right. Yeah. So maximum allowable dosage for Velcorin in wine or any alcoholic beverage is 200 parts per million, right? So that's the max amount we can dose. Now, the advantage really of lowering dosage, or the only advantage that we've seen, is really cost. So by lowering the dosage, you reduce your cost. the difference from a sensory standpoint, you wouldn't be able to tell any issue or difference between 100 parts per million and 200 parts per million, right? So when customers are first starting with Velcorin, you know, good practice is to start at the maximum dosage and then to do your testing within your plant, within your packaging line, to see where you can reduce to still maintain control of the natural or the environmental micro that you're dealing with. So it is good to do testing beforehand. One of the things we recommend is that for any product that's being dosed, it is still possible to overwhelm Velcorin. For instance, if you have a really high population of whatever the microorganism is, you might need to have a control step ahead of Velcorin. So maintaining a micro load of lower than 500 CFU per mil at the time of packaging with Velcorin is a best practice.
So plate incubation in the lab.
Yeah.
Do some tests. Not everybody can do that. It's pretty hazardous product. So how do you do that? You have to send that to a specific lab to do the test, or you can do it yourself. How does that work? Yeah,
I mean, if you have a product that's sensitive, or you know that you want to test ahead of time, the ETS is a lab that we work with regularly, obviously, and you guys have that there in Oregon. They can run analysis on microbial load beforehand and determine whether or not you need an additional step other than Velcorin, or if Velcorin would be just fine. We're also working on the potential to do a Velcorin challenge in the laboratory with ETS. So that's coming soon, particularly to Oregon. So hopefully by the beginning of the new year, we'll have something online for that.
Yeah, so we are working on that with ETS. ETS is the same building than Crush Cellar. Most of the people know that. So right now we are putting something together with Andre for ETS to run the test in the lab in the Willamette Valley. So that will be very practical for the local wineries to do that. Talking about dosage, DMDC is pretty dangerous. Do winemaker need, or winery need, a special permit or training or equipment to add it, or how does it work?
Yeah, so when you look at DMDC on an SDS sheet, yeah, it's hazardous in the concentrated form. So there is some safety training that's required, and this is all self-mandated, right? We are the ones who are kind of promoting this along with the manufacturer. So it's not regulated by the government or the FDA or anything like that. It's self-imposed. We always want to have our customers with safety in mind in this process. When you're comparing it to other products, I'd say handling sulfur dioxide would be probably a similar type of product that you would consider safety for. So there is equipment necessary to dose it properly. And it's not only for safety, but primarily for the nature of the raw material itself. Velcorin is very heavy. It's hydrophobic. It does not want to homogenize easily. It's very heavy. So if you were to put take a bottle of Velcorin and dump it in the top of a tank and just put a mixer on it, it would probably just fall to the bottom of the tank, eventually break down and hydrolyze, but it wouldn't homogenize well, and you wouldn't get the effect you need out of it. So there is specialized dosing equipment that atomizes it into the line to make sure we get proper homogenization and treatment in the product before it gets bottled. So Scott Labs provides annual training, not only on safety, but also the application for the equipment. We have service techs that handle any of the maintenance of that sort of stuff. So we're pretty interactive with customers who have Velcorin and see them regularly to make sure they're up to date in training.
Okay, so can you describe a piece of equipment? How the dosage pump, how big it is? How much space do you need to store it?
I'm going to share a screen real quick because I got a couple of shots to share here. Well, it looks like I got a pop-up. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I think you
Okay,
have
let
to
me,
enable the screen
I
share.
put you as a host now.
Okay.
So now you should be able to.
All right. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so if we're in a packaging line, right, here's a typical setup where we'll have our bottling tank with a pre-filtration, sterile filtration set up directly going to the bottling line. Velcorin, if we were to add a dosing unit, we would essentially put it in between the last final filtration step and the filling line. And the machine will dose product as it's on its way to the filler. So you have active Velcorin then in the filling process as well as the final package. So it's going to address and treat anything from the point it's injected, including the filler valves, the package, the cork, anything it comes in contact with, right? So that's unique. As far as the machine itself, this is what it looks like. You can see you have an inlet on the bottom and an outlet to the left of that little piping. There's a little picture of the atomizing nozzle in that window that is just behind the sight glass. So that as the flow of wine is going through the flow meter, it gets injected with that little shot of Velcorin there.
Okay.
The typical space required to have a machine, this is our DT touch machine. That's currently available. It's probably the size of, or will take up the floor space of a pallet, essentially. So it doesn't require a lot of space, but it does take up a little bit of space. The machines themselves for the smaller size winery will probably cost, I would say, anywhere from $75,000 to $80,000 typically. So it might be prohibitive to a small winery to have this if they're not bottling very often, but there are mobile services that are available as well that can come in and provide the service. You pay for the amount of wine you dose, and then they clean up and go on to the next site. So there are other options.
Okay, so you said it's really before bottling. That is the primary.
Absolutely, yeah. So going back to this slide, this is the typical step. You want to place the dosing unit, after as the very last step in the process before it goes to the filler. So this is kind of where you want to have it.
So if you're going to ship some wine to California for treatment or whatever, I don't know, the smoke tent treatment in California, you want to ship your wine in the truck. Would you also be able to use that for transportation?
Yeah, actually, that's something
that
that has gained some usage, right? So if you're shipping bulk wine somewhere and you're worried about maybe it's even during the summer or somewhere that's a long distance or the wine is sensitive, some folks have done that where they're dosing wine as they're filling the truck. So it would be kind of the final step you would do as you're filling the container. Dose it with Velcorin and keep it protected on that route. Now you got to bear in mind that that 200 part per million dosage is a cumulative dosage. So that's the maximum allowable
accumulated
for that wine. Right.
Okay.
So if you dose it at the full potential, then you can only dose it that one time.
Okay.
What some customers have done is they can cut the dosage in half. Let's say they dose 100 parts per million in the truck to ship somewhere, and then at the final destination, they can dose another 100 part per million at the time of bottling.
Okay, that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Those Velcorin is for anyone, everyone. What size wineries? You said now, then you can also use like service out service. So the question is for everybody. Every size winery can use Velcorin.
Yeah, we've been using it in California for quite some time. obviously. And I would say in the last 20 years, specifically, the smaller size wineries have really had more access to it with the advent of the mobile dosing services. Right? They have the equipment, they have the trained operators, they even provide the Velcorin. So they handle everything related to the process. And the machines are sized according to the size of the filling line, right? So the faster the filling line, the larger size, or at least larger capability speed machine is required. So that's one consideration, but most of the mobile providers will have the smaller equipment because that's the majority of the market that needs that service. So pretty easy for them to come in and set up into the day of bottling, even used on mobile bottling trucks, right? So if you have a mobile bottling truck coming in to do your bottling for the day, the mobile producer can just hook up right before it goes to the truck. So that's very common here. And, you know, I would say, boy, we have approximately 250 permanent locations where equipment is installed around the country. But out of those, you know, there are many mobile providers that are probably servicing well over 2,000 small clients around the country. So it's pretty widely used.
Do you know anyone in Oregon who offer a service in Northwest?
There are a couple, yeah. So there's a company called Craft Canning and Bottling that provides a service. I think they're based out of Portland, but they go all over the Northwest. There is another producer or provider called Tin Man Canning, I believe, was previously a part of Wine by Joe co-packing or custom crush facility that also has a machine that provides services. So there are a couple places up in Oregon that currently do have equipment that can provide service.
So
if you go to our website, there's links to those companies.
Okay, and if anyone is interested, just please feel free to send an email to Crush Cellar as well, or go check on Scott Lab website. What else? We talk about wine, you know, but what other beverages can be treated with Velcorin? Which beverages? Any beverages?
Yeah, boy. Here's a slide based on that. So, you know, it's an interesting time in the industry. I would say the alcohol industry. Currently, we're seeing a lot of new product development, a lot of crossover even. You know, breweries producing hard seltzer, distilleries producing RTD type of alcoholic premixed drinks, and even, you know, wine cocktails and various other segments. So, you know, in the alcohol industry, it's virtually approved. Well, it is approved for anything, and even in the non-alcoholic industry, 100% juice and juice mixed drinks, RTD beverages like iced teas and lemonades, sports and energy drinks, any type of carbonated beverage out of the market, even beer mix like shandy and rattlers. So yeah, various product categories and sectors all over the map. Anything really that can have an issue with spoilage microbial potential, right? And a type of package or beverage that is susceptible to that.
Okay. It's a big market.
It's a big market, and it's funny, you know, we're having a webinar about Velcorin because there's still a lot of folks who don't know about it. But I like to joke that, you know, it's the oldest product, been around for 40 years, that's still kind of innovative and new that a lot of people still don't know about. It's taken a long time to get here. But I think we're at a stage now in the wine industry where it has become somewhat of a known commodity and a tool. In some regions faster than others. You know, even with some of the nature of Velcorin that we have to handle the product and the hazardous nature of it carefully, it's been proven to be effectively used safely in the marketplace for quite some time. So it's still growing.
Yeah, we have two questions. You said antimicrobial. Does that mean both bacteria and yeast can be treated?
Yeah, I've got a slide here. Can you see that?
Yes.
So this was published by Lanxess, and it's in some of our marketing material. You can see various species of micro that Velcorin has been effective at treating. I will say that, you know, yeast, we know it's highly effective against at even very low dosages. Yeast is very susceptible to Velcorin. Bacteria, a little bit more difficult, but still effective. I would say for bacteria, you know, the amount and the population of bacteria, microbial load is a factor, as well as strain. Some strains are more resistant. And I think if bacteria is an issue, probably need to do some additional testing up front to see if it's going to be effective against whatever it is you're dealing with.
Okay, another question is, do all these juices or fluid product need to be filtrated clean or just less than 500 CFU?
Yeah, going back to a slide here. So, you know, as you see here, kind of the traditional setup, if you're sterile filtering to control micro. By the introduction of Velcorin now, that sterile filtration step becomes optional. And this has been an attraction for a lot of, I'd say, premium wineries that don't necessarily want to sterile filter, but still want to have the assurance or insurance that they're addressing any microbial issues. So, you know, it is for using Velcorin, it's not necessary to filter. You don't have to filter. It really is a microbial load issue. If you have too high of a load, you may need to knock that back down to make sure Velcorin works. But really, it's a matter of kind of testing up front to see what you have. So, but you know, not necessary to sterile filter.
Okay. Let me check my question. So we talk about price. How much, you know, let's talk. We talk about the cost of the equipment. Can you share some information about, you know, cost per gallon or per bottle? Or yeah.
Yeah, here you go here. So, you know, the equipment, the smallest equipment there you see, that's about $78,000. Now for the liquid itself, for the raw material, we sell it in two different size packages. And in order to buy Velcorin, you have to have a machine. So we won't just sell you a bottle of Velcorin without a machine. But if you do invest, you can see the cost there equates to about 11 cents a gallon or 2 cents a bottle, 750 bottle, if you're dosing at the maximum dosage level.
Wow, it's very interesting. And you have different size piece of equipment depending the size of wine you want to treat, or it's a standard?
Yeah, it really is based on the size of the filler, right? So for most of the small fillers, let's say you're running less than 100 bottles a minute, the two smaller size machines will be appropriate there. So the DT3 is the smallest. The next size up, the DT6, will accommodate up to that speed. But they make these machines that can accommodate up to, you know, 10 times that speed. So we have some installations at large canning facilities that are doing, you know, 2,000 cans a minute. So you can imagine the size of that filler. It's pretty big, pretty fast.
So it's really the only method to guarantee antiseptic until the closure of the container, really, because even if we sterile or sanitize a bottling line, we're never 100% sure that it is. But with that, your wine is protected until container is closed and on the pallet. So
yeah, exactly. That's very unique to this product. The only other type of product that has that similar effect would be a persistent preservative, which is always in the product. You're drinking that essentially, right? And you have to label that. With Velcorin, it gets introduced to the package. It addresses any micro on the way to the package, even inside the package. It hydrolyzes into those other components, gone. So when the consumer is opening the package, it's been addressed and is no longer Velcorin. So
that is great. Then you don't have to label.
That's
for
correct.
Sure. Yeah, important in the wine industry. Okay, great. I don't have any more questions for you, Andre. I think that everybody have answered to their questions. If you have more questions, please put them on the screen right now. We'll be happy to ask them to Andre. I hope that clarify or answer the question that some people can have. This webinar will be on our website, and if you have any question, you can also go to Scott Lab website, or come to me. I will be happy to send the questions to Andre and send the contact information to Andre as well. What else I wanted to share with you guys? Wanted to share then ETS Lab is going to offer pretty soon the service and test for the Velcorin on-site in Newburgh. So that's great news. And also Crush Resellers, opening to new services and offerings. So wanted to inform everybody then we carry Scott Lab corks now at Crush Reseller. We also carry M-Cort in capsules, Stelvin screw caps. So if you have any need of tin capsule screw caps of corks, you can contact me. I will be happy to give you some estimates. So it's very exciting to know that Crush Reseller carry that now. So Andre, thank you very much. It was great to have you participating to a webinar. And if you have anything else to add, please feel free to do so now.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sebastian. Always a pleasure, and happy to support you and the group up in Oregon. If anybody ever has any additional questions, like Sebastian mentioned, feel free to get in contact with him. You can always get in contact with me directly also through Scott Labs, and hope to see some of you or you all someday in the future once we get past all these COVID-related restrictions or back to visiting customers and traveling again. So hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Andre, you have a recording button to stop. You see the recording because you are the host now.